Okay, let's jump right in. We're going to talk about a story about how you can take teen conversations from, totally frustrating to actually fantastic. And it's all about a framework that helps uncover the hidden talents that, well, are in all of us.
You've been in that meeting, right? The one that's just going nowhere. Everyone means well, but the conversation is totally stalled out. People are talking over each other, the energy in the room is just dead, and you feel like you're spinning your wheels. It's such a common problem. But what if the solution was actually surprisingly simple? So, our story, it doesn't start in some high-powered boardroom. Nope. It starts at a church volunteer meeting. The speaker, our narrator for the story, is trying to help plan the annual festival, but man, the discussion has just hit a brick wall. The energy is totally flat. Nobody can agree on how to move forward. The conversation is just stuck. And then, out of nowhere, a woman named Terry asks this really simple, almost childlike question, and it just slices right through all the noise, all the debate. It wasn't about the logistics, it wasn't about the budget, it was about purpose. And that one little question, it completely changed the entire vibe in the room. So instead of just giving her an answer, the speaker does something interesting. He grabs a marker, walks up to a whiteboard, and draws 6 circles. And then he starts explaining this concept he uses back at his company, a whole framework for understanding how work actually gets done. He calls it the 6 working geniuses.
Okay, and this is where it gets really interesting. The definition of genius here, it's not what you think. It's not about being Einstein or some kind of prodigy. It's about tapping into your natural talents. The stuff that gives you energy, the things that bring you joy. It's the kind of work that doesn't even feel like work. And that little shift in thinking, that's the key to this whole thing.
And this right here, this is a perfect example of the very first genius, wonder. That's exactly what Terry did. See, she wasn't trying to solve the problem right away. She was just pondering the why. And people who have this genius of wonder, they are absolutely essential because they're the ones who make sure we're even solving the right problem to begin with. So, once wonder has pointed out the need, what's next? Well, you need invention. This is the genius of just creating brand new ideas and solutions seemingly out of thin air. The inventor is that person who hears the why and their brain immediately goes, ooh, what if we did this? They're the ones who provide that initial creative spark. All right, so wonder asks the big question, and invention comes up with the cool idea. But that's just the start. Let's look at the whole cycle here. After you have an idea, you need discernment. That's your gut check, right? The ability to just know if an idea has legs. Okay, so once an idea passes that test, someone's got to get people excited about it. That's galvanizing, rallying the troops, inspiring everyone to get on board. Then, as the work actually starts, you need enablement. These are the people who come alongside to help and support the team. And finally, to get it over the finish line, you absolutely need tenacity. That's the grit, the relentless drive to push through and get the job done. And here's the magic. When you have all 6 of these geniuses working together, things just flow.
So, with this new way of talking and this new understanding of everyone's strengths, that volunteer group just springs to life. It's incredible. They totally harness that flow and completely reinvent the festival. It's not just some carnival anymore. No, it becomes this amazing, meaningful outreach program for families in need, all funded by donations and powered by real, genuine passion. That deep dive into their why literally transformed everything.
Okay, so the next morning, our narrator heads back to his own company, and he's totally buzzing from this breakthrough. But he's also a little skeptical. I mean, that kind of energy, that kind of clarity, sure, it's one thing in a volunteer group. But could it actually survive the daily grind, the pressures of a real corporate office? He's kind of worried the magic was just a one-time thing, a fluke. And this is the moment he knew this was something real. What he was afraid of was that everyone would just slide back into their old habits, business as usual. But the reality? It was a complete 180. The office culture had totally shifted. The conversation didn't just die when the reading ended. People were fired up, talking about their geniuses, even their frustrations, and just seeing their work in a whole new way. And the impact wasn't just talk. It was immediate. You could actually see it. There was this guy, Chris, who was always kind of hesitant. Well, now he understood his gift was galvanizing, and he just stepped up and started leading. Another manager, Quinn, they actually tweaked her role so she could focus on her geniuses of enablement and discernment. And our narrator, the CEO, he freed himself up to do what he does best, invention. And the result? Suddenly their meetings were laser-focused and unbelievably productive. And this is the real payoff, isn't it? At the end of that day, the narrator just stops and realizes that was the best, most fun, and most productive day he'd had at work in years. Just by aligning people's jobs with what they're naturally gifted at, work became joyful again, and it became way more effective. But the success didn't stop in that one department. This idea, it starts to go viral inside the company. Remember Quinn, the manager? Well, she saw how powerful this model was, and she decided she wanted to bring it to her own team, a group of younger employees they affectionately called the Littles. But this brings up a whole new challenge. What happens when the problem isn't about finding new ideas? What happens when it's about performance? I mean, this framework is amazing for getting things started, but can it actually help with those really, really tough conversations? You know, the ones about whether someone is even in the right job to begin with? And this is where it gets real. Quinn opens up and reveals she's got a serious problem with an employee named Max. Everyone likes Max. He's committed, he's enthusiastic, but he keeps making the same critical mistakes over and over again. She's coached him. She's talked to him a half dozen times, but nothing's changing. She's at her wit's end, and she's honestly afraid he's not going to make it at the company. And see, this is where this framework goes from just being a productivity tool to something that can really change team dynamics. Quinn's problem with Max. It sets up a much deeper, more important conversation. So let's bring this back to you. How can you apply this? Start thinking about your own work. What parts of your job give you energy and joy? And what parts just completely drain you? That right there, that's your first clue to your own geniuses. Then take a look at your team. Where are the gaps? Do you have a bunch of inventors but no one with tenacity to finish things? See, the real question isn't just what are my geniuses, it's what geniuses does my team need to succeed? And what do you do when those two things don't line up? Now that is a conversation worth